Let's talk about efficiency, he said, like he'd just discovered fire and synergy in the same TED talk. Diane sat across from the new director, Colin with Tueltikes, buttoned up like a Banana Republic mannequin, all bright teeth and dead eyes, while he clicked through a PowerPoint titled Evolving Legacy Processes, A New Horizon. Slide 6 was just a stock photo of a light bulb. Slide 7, her name, with a strike through. We've done a strategic audit. Colin chirped, sipping a green juice that looked like pond scum, and we're realigning responsibilities. Your workflows are functionally redundant. Her jaw didn't move, just her pen. Click, click, click. Redundant, she repeated, voice ice dry. 7 years, reduced to a bullet point and a buzzword. Oh, don't take it personally, he said, flipping to a chart titled Cost Reduction via Next Gen Talent. We're bringing in someone with a fresh perspective, an intern, actually. Brian? He's studying AI integration at Rutgers. She blinked. You're replacing me with an intern? He's got Chat GPT plus, Colin beamed. That's when Diane knew the walls were paper and the roof was on fire. Now look, before I go further, 97% of y'all listen to these stories without subscribing. Which is fine, unless you're the kind of person who also forgets your mom's birthday and microwaves fish at the office. Do the right thing. Smash that subscribe. Like if you've ever wanted to slap a manager with their own PowerPoint. Back to Diane. They didn't even give her a goodbye lunch. HR handed her a branded mug and a transition checklist like she was being released back into the wild. And the cherry on the humiliation sundae? She had to train Brian. Brian, who wore Yeezys to onboarding and said things like, do we even need reconciliation logs anymore? Diane spent 4 mind-numbing days showing him how to generate cross-departmental vendor reports, while he posted Instagram stories captioned #corporate baddie from inside the break room. He nodded a lot, smiled wide, wrote nothing down. She asked if he understood how the payment gateway synced with the procurement API. He said, I'm more of a big-picture guy. She wanted to staple his AirPods to the conference table. But Diane, she didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't post cryptic status updates about betrayal or burnout. She got quiet. She backed up everything. SOPs, contact logs, vendor schedules, even the internal flowcharts that only lived in her head and on sticky notes. She emailed the whole package to her personal account under the subject line, for later. The last day, she left a note on Brian's desk. It said, please don't delete the master spreadsheet. It's not just a spreadsheet. It's the circulatory system of this company. If it dies, so does your job. Brian smiled like she handed him a thank you card. Colin shook her hand at the exit and said, we'll be fine, Diane. Systems are smarter now. She smiled back, but her teeth were colder than his smoothie. 2 days after her offboarding, Diane sat in her bathrobe, sipping reheated gas station coffee and watching Brian's face beam out of her LinkedIn feed like a kid who just discovered spell check. Excited to announce I've taken over operations strategy at company name Redacted, leading a major digital transformation. The post had 118 likes, mostly from frat brothers and people with growth hacker in their bios. The photo? Brian, posing next to a whiteboard covered in buzzwords, optimize, leverage AI-enhanced workflows. One bullet said Sunset Legacy Ops. Legacy Ops, that was her. Sunsetted like a MySpace page. She didn't comment, didn't like, didn't screenshot for the group chat. She just bookmarked the post under a folder named Receipts. By Friday, the text started trickling in. Hey, do you know why our Q3 vendor payments didn't go through? Can't access the expense portal. Did the logins change? Weird, the budget trackers showing duplicates? Diane replied to none of them. But her fingers moved faster than her rage. She opened her laptop and launched a Wix template called Modern Professional. 10 minutes later, she bought a domain, Winters Ops Consulting.com. By sundown, the site had her name, a clean navy and cream layout, and a tagline that read, streamlining systems with precision and experience. There was no mention of her former employer, just a tab called Contact for Rescue Projects. The next day, she poured herself into updating the documents she'd archived, SOPs, vendor schedules, compliance calendars. But now, each file bore a new footer. Copyright Winters Ops Consulting, LLC. All rights reserved. If they wanted access again, they'd be paying for it. Meanwhile, the LinkedIn circus marched on. Brian posted another update. Just automated our entire monthly reconciliation process using GPT-4 plus sheets. Data science is wild. She nearly choked on a mouthful of peanut butter toast. Automated. The reconciliation process was a 7-tab nightmare involving 4 currencies, 3 legal entities, and a legacy tool called Budget Squid that required ritual sacrifice just to generate a report. Sure enough, Monday morning, a former coworker sent her a screenshot. Brian just triggered a duplicate payout to our German vendor. Twice. Euros 28,000 gone. Another. Brian asked if our compliance reports were due annually or when the mood hits. I want to die. Still, Diane said nothing. No tweets. No I told you so. No shade-laced reaction posts. She kept building, tightened her site copy, set up Calendly links, added a testimonials section, empty for now, but tastefully framed in anticipation. She worked out of a folding desk in her guest bedroom with a feral determination only betrayal can sharpen. And at night, she stared at her framed Employee of the Month plaque like it owed her money. She'd been the bones of that place. The internal organs. Now they were walking around with a chatbot and an intern dressed like a Twitch streamer, wondering why the system was crashing. Let them crash. She wasn't bitter, she was building. The first real crack wasn't loud, it was subtle, like drywall swelling behind paint. Diane got wind of it via group text, buried between someone's baby photo and a Trader Joe's meme. Elmao. Julia just built a fail-safe tracker in Excel. Took her 12 hours. Now it's triple counting all POs from last quarter. We're screwed. Julia was middle management with a messiah complex and a deep, erotic love for pivot tables. The kind of woman who used highlighters like war paint and said things like "let's circle back" during funerals. Apparently, Brian had optimized the vendor payments flow by deleting a legacy macro she didn't understand, one that happened to be the only thing keeping invoices from bouncing around like pinballs. Vendors weren't getting paid. 3 had frozen shipments. 1 sent a lawyerly love letter. And so, Julia, armed with coffee breath and shaky formulas, decided to rebuild the system manually. Her spreadsheet workaround, color-coded like a Skittles commercial, created more duplicates than a photocopier on crack. Diane didn't even flinch, but she did open her new rate card. Under strategic optimization packages, she added a line: Emergency Operational Rescue $325/HR, 3-hour minimum. She didn't bold it, didn't color it red. Just sat it there like a loaded weapon on a polished table. A week later, the whispers escalated into wails. Diane got a call from her friend Tasha in finance, an after-hours wine and vent buddy who once smuggled mini vodka bottles into an all-hands meeting. Girl, Tasha hissed, compliance was due Monday. It's Thursday. Brian thought the submission was automated through Slack reminders. Diane actually laughed, not loud, just one sharp exhale through her nose. The kind of laugh you do when the universe writes punchlines you couldn't even dream up. Oh, and guess what? Tasha added. Colin had to cancel his golf trip. He's been in the office late every night. Saw him rubbing his temples by the Keurig like a stockbroker in a recession movie. Dude's looking pale. Diane turned her camera off, muted her mic, and whispered, good. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. She wasn't rooting for collapse, she just knew it was the only language that boardroom toddlers like Colin understood. No spreadsheet, no team huddle, no LinkedIn inspiration post could replace actual competence. And now the bill was due. Still, she didn't gloat, didn't forward the memes, didn't even screenshot Julia's spreadsheet gone feral, even though someone from procurement called it Excel Chernobyl. Instead, she updated her Google Drive folder titled Client Onboarding Kit and added a new doc. Case Study Template Ops Failure Recovery 1 section read. Initial conditions, inexperienced personnel. Over-reliance on AI tools. Poor system understanding. High risk of cascading failure. Under resolution timeline. She left the space blank, for now. The subject line was plain: consulting inquiry urgent. The email address, some burner Gmail, no name, no title, just corporate desperation wrapped in anonymity. Would you be open to a brief consulting call? Just 15 minutes, we'd love your perspective. Diane stared at it, chewing the inside of her cheek. No signature, no context, not even a Dear Miss Winters. She deleted it, not out of spite, but because the tone reeked of cowardice. Like someone trying to fish her back in without admitting they'd tossed her overboard first. Let them sweat. 3 hours later, a new email. This one carried a name: Jessica McMullen, Executive Assistant to Colin with Tueltikes. Subject: Director requests time-sensitive. Hi Diane, I hope you're well. Colin asked me to reach out and see if you might be available for a short call this week regarding some systems continuity concerns. We'd appreciate your insight. Please let us know your availability. Thank you kindly. No apology, no acknowledgement, just systems continuity concerns. Translation: Brian broke something, Julia's spreadsheet made it worse, and now the building's on fire, but no one wants to admit who dropped the match. Diane didn't respond right away. Instead, she opened her rate sheet PDF and made one last adjustment. Initial emergency consult $675 flat, 50 minutes. Prepaid, no refunds, no deliverables. Questions answered only. Follow-up billed separately. She wrote back, Hi Jessica, thank you for reaching out. I'd be happy to make time this Thursday or Friday. Please find my rate and terms attached. Prepayment required to confirm booking. Best, Diane Winters, Principal Consultant, Winters Ops Consulting. No emoji, no exclamation point, no let me know if that works. Just terms, like a surgeon charging per stitch. It took 12 minutes. 12 minutes before Diane got a calendar invite titled Ops Call Priority Internal Use, only 12 minutes before she received a Stripe receipt confirmation for exactly $675.00. 12 minutes before Jessica replied with, confirmed, looking forward to speaking with you Friday at 10 a.m. She smiled to herself just barely and powered off her screen. In that moment, Diane didn't feel smug, didn't feel righteous. She felt still, like the air before a thunderclap, like the center of a storm she didn't cause but absolutely knew how to walk through. Friday, 9:58 a.m. Diane was already logged in, blazer on top, pajama pants below, camera off. She watched the clock like it owed her something. At exactly 10 o'clock, she clicked join with video. The screen filled with tired faces. Collins was front and center, and he looked like someone who'd been haunted by the ghost of quarterly reports. His hair was damp, shirt wrinkled, collar askew like he'd gotten dressed in a panic while speed scrolling through corporate apologies on ChatGPT. Jessica, the assistant, gave her a brittle smile. Julia's forehead was creased like a badly folded napkin. Brian? Brian looked like a kid who just realized his science fair volcano was actually radioactive. No one spoke at first. Then Colin, with a voice about 2 octaves shakier than usual, cleared his throat. Diane, thank you for making the time. We've run into some hiccups with the updated systems and thought your historical knowledge might help us gain clarity. She nodded once, happy to help. Please walk me through what's been changed. Click, she hit record. Zoom flashed its little red dot in the corner. No one objected, probably too ashamed. Probably didn't notice. Brian started rambling first. Something about automated Slack triggers and replacing the vendor sync tool with a Notion board. Diane didn't blink. Did you migrate the procurement pipeline to Notion? She asked flatly. Brian nodded too fast. And how are you triggering payment authorizations? He glanced off screen, clearly hoping a divine answer would descend through his Wi-Fi. We used a shared Google form for interim approvals. Julia cut in temporarily. Diane tapped a pen against her notepad. And your audit trail? Silence. Then Colin sheepish. We haven't fully re-established a traceable trail yet. Her mouth didn't smile, but her eyes did something dangerous. So you're approving vendor payments through a Google form with no authentication, no backups, and no audit trail? No external audit trail, Julia said like that was better. Diane wrote one word in her notes, liability. She pulled up a screen share and opened a document titled Internal Financial Flow Legacy Config. Her cursor hovered over the red highlighted section labeled Compliance Risk Zones. This process you're describing violates 3 internal controls that were outlined in the 2022 policy update. You're triggering multi-party payments with unsecured inputs, no system of record, and no verification process. That's not just sloppy, it's illegal in certain jurisdictions, especially the EU. Do you still service vendors in Frankfurt? Jessica nodded slowly, clearly realizing she was in an entirely different movie than she thought. Diane continued, calm as a surgeon mid-slice. Have you filed your annual SOC2 update? A flicker of panic across Colin's face. I'll take that as a no, she said. Noted. Brian's video shut off, presumably to hide whatever millennial breakdown was happening in real time. Moving on, Diane said, shifting screens, the billing scheduler. Why was it replaced? We were told your Excel model was outdated, Julia said stiffly. That model fed 3 downstream systems and handled vendor escalation. Where's that functionality now? Julia stared at her keyboard like it had wronged her. Diane nodded and clicked her pen. Understood. She didn't yell, didn't raise her voice, didn't even sigh, but she knew and they knew that the structure had already collapsed. They were living in the ruins. She was just drawing the map of how they got there. At 10:43, she ended the call. She saved the recording to a folder titled Exhibit A Systems Assessment, then renamed it Redundant My Ass MP4 because even revenge wears business casual. Monday morning, Diane logged in at 7:03 a.m. with her second cup of coffee and the serene detachment of a sniper assembling her rifle. She wasn't rushing. She was orchestrating. The first item on the hit list, vendor syncs. She accessed the old sandbox backup from her encrypted drive, one they'd clearly forgotten existed, and compared it line by line with the tangled mess of Julia's spreadsheets and Brian's Notion solution, which looked like it had been brainstormed during a frat house game of Pictionary. By noon, the payment gateway was fully restored. Vendors were relinked, the audit trail was live again, and 2 missed payouts were quietly reissued with accurate timestamps. She even reattached the compliance tagging they'd stripped to streamline things. Diane didn't announce her progress. She just let silence build behind her work like pressure in a valve. Tuesday, she tackled reporting. Brian's GPT-4-generated summary macros were scrapped in favor of her original formulas, only now they were updated, cleaner, faster. What used to take 6 hours now took 2. She ran a test batch for the finance team and received no reply, but someone in AP dropped a heart emoji into the Slack channel titled #emergency-ops. She took a screenshot, filed it under evidence of quiet worship. By Wednesday, Colin emailed her personally. Hey Diane, just wanted to say we're really grateful. The team's noticing the difference already. She replied with a 3-word sentence, glad it's helping. No smile, no signature flourish, just business. In the background, Diane worked on something else, something she never got approval for during her 7-year tenure, a predictive dashboard that flagged broken vendor contracts before the system missed them. She coded it herself, ran simulations, plugged in past errors, caught every mistake Brian had made in his 3-week reign of terror. And when it worked, she didn't just implement it. She documented it, polished it, packaged it, then uploaded it to the U.S. Copyright Office as Winters Ops Predictive Continuity Suite Trademark, Copyright 2025 Diane M. Winters, all rights reserved. The SOPs were next. All of them. What was once tribal knowledge locked in her inbox, buried in email threads and desk drawers, now lived in cloud-hosted PDFs, neatly branded with her consulting logo at the bottom of each page. She smiled at the watermark, property of Winters Ops Consulting, LLC. Unauthorized replication prohibited. Every fix made them lean harder on her. Every automation whispered, "You tried to erase me. Now you rent me by the hour." She wasn't angry anymore. Anger was for amateurs. This was surgical, and it was starting to feel good. Not the fixes themselves, those were rote. No, what felt good was the distance. The cool, clean space between her and the chaos she was quietly puppeteering back into place. They thought they needed her knowledge. What they needed was her, and she made damn sure they'd never forget it again. The resignation came in the form of a cryptic Slack ping to the company-wide channel at 2:17 p.m. on Thursday. Brian R. "Hey everyone, today's my last day. Thanks for the ride." No announcement from Colin. No HR follow-up. Just that followed by radio silence. Diane caught wind from Tasha first. "He gone," the text read. They said he cried in the wellness room for 45 minutes after the quarterly review. Colin blamed him for the $50K vendor error. Guy hyperventilated and left his badge on Jessica's desk. A few emojis followed, a tornado, a broken heart, a clown face. Diane didn't reply. Instead, she clicked into the vendor management portal, the same one Brian accidentally purged 2 months' worth of invoices from, and saw that someone had tried to manually adjust the numbers. Poorly, $50,000 lost to a duplicated invoice. Sent to the wrong vendor, paid twice. Zero chance of recovery unless someone liked long games of legal chicken. She stared at the blinking cursor, then opened a blank doc. Subject, proposal, long-term consulting agreement to Colin N., Director of Operations from Diane Winters, Principal Consultant, but before she hit send, he got there first. His message was short, pathetic in its corporate humility. "Hi Diane, I realize this may be a long shot, but would you ever consider returning full-time? The team could really use your leadership again. Either way, thank you for everything you've done so far. It hasn't gone unnoticed." Colin, she read it 3 times, and quietly opened her downloads folder. Pulled up the contract she'd written in week 1 of this mess. Titled, Winters Ops Long-Term Terms PDF, she added one final clause in bold near the bottom. Client grants Winters Ops Consulting, LLC non-exclusive rights to anonymized case study publication based on services rendered. Below it, she added, rate, $250/HR, 20-hour minimum/month. Term, 6 months. Renewable only by mutual agreement. Location, fully remote. All communications asynchronous unless scheduled in advance. She replied to Colin's message with no greeting, no sign-off, just the attachment. Then she opened Zoom. Before logging into the next emergency check-in, she clicked into her profile and changed her display name. Diane Winters, Principal Consultant. No emojis, no exclamation point. No trace of the woman they fired 2 months ago. When the meeting started, no one commented on the new title. But everyone saw it, especially Colin. He flinched when her camera came on, his lips parting like he wanted to say something, maybe an apology, maybe a joke, but nothing came out. Diane didn't smile. She just said, "Let's begin." And for the first time in his career, Colin said nothing. Diane didn't want to do the grunt work anymore. She wanted leverage. She wanted scale. She wanted someone else to fix pivot tables while she took client calls with a calm voice and a fat invoice. So she posted a listing on her own site, not on LinkedIn, not on Upwork. Just a single line under a new section titled Careers, Seeking Junior Ops Specialist. Must speak fluent spreadsheet. No bullshit, no ego, no hustle talk. Bonus points for sarcasm and the ability to breathe through stress. She found Claire within 48 hours. A sharp 28-year-old ex-VA with an eye for detail and a healthy distrust of management. During the interview, Claire said, "I don't like people who call their calendar a battlefield." Diane hired her before the coffee cooled. Week 1, Claire was rebuilding vendor folders. Week 2, she was auditing Julia's janky compliance logs. Diane gave her room, guidance, and one warning. If you ever create a spreadsheet that requires its own legend, I walk. By the end of month 2, Diane was spending her mornings reviewing dashboards and sipping coffee like a retired mob boss overseeing a money laundering bakery. Then the messages started. "Hey, just wanted to say you were right," from Amy in finance. "We seriously miss your version of order," from Curtis in procurement. "Can I refer my cousin's company to you? They're in ops hell and don't know it yet," from Kevin, previously silent during all-hands meetings unless snacks were involved. She didn't respond to most. Just archived them with a little internal nod. Not triumph exactly, more like a reckoning, like watching seeds she didn't even know she'd planted start blooming in unexpected soil. And then came the twist she didn't expect. One of Claire's onboarding tasks was responding to inquiry emails through the site's contact form. Thursday morning, she slacked Diane, got a weird one. A logistics company that services your former employer's supply chain just reached out. Wants a consult on automation strategy. Recognize the name? Diane opened the email, recognized it immediately. The vendor had been on the original rollout doc for the failed Notion migration. Brian had flagged them as low priority. They'd been burned. And now they were circling back, but not to the employer who dropped the ball, the woman who quietly picked them up. She forwarded the inquiry to her personal inbox, opened a fresh doc. Proposal vendor optimization phase I under background. She wrote, client previously underserved due to internal mismanagement by third-party stakeholders. Project now steered under the guidance of Winters Ops Consulting for precision execution. She didn't brag about it, didn't send screen grabs to old colleagues. She did allow herself one small gesture. She opened her browser, typed in her old employer's homepage, and watched the carousel of buzzwords scroll by: synergy, innovation, future-proof, while the backend still ran on the same duct-taped processes she'd rescued. She closed the tab, then opened 5 new ones, each from a new inquiry Claire had flagged that week. The business was growing. And the past, it was slowly becoming just another client. The final invoice went out at 9:02 a.m. on a Monday. Clean, surgical, no fluff, just rows of billable hours, each line a quiet ledger of chaos conquered. Total, $106,250.00 memo. Final phase: system recovery, process stabilization, junior onboarding, vendor acquisition consulting. She attached it to an email with a subject line that simply read, final invoice plus summary deck. The summary deck was a 12-slide PowerPoint. Tastefully minimal, dark blue headers, sleek transitions, just enough polish to make it look like she barely cared because she didn't, not anymore. Slide 1, overview. Slide 2, timeline of recovery. Slide 3, system vulnerability breakdown. Slide 4, restoration protocols. Slides 5-10, detailed metrics. Before and after benchmarks, screenshots of error logs turned clean reports, invoices unjammed, compliance clocks ticking on time like a Swiss watch. Slide 11, recommendations moving forward. Claire helped build it. The wording was soft but clear. Stop hiring children to do adult work. Stop confusing software with competence. Stop deleting people who built the thing you're now crawling back to. And then, slide 12, just one image, a screenshot of an email, dated 2 months prior. Subject line, strategic role changes immediate. The body read, we've determined that Diane's role is non-essential in the evolving operational structure. Colin N., Director of Operations. Beneath it, in white font over a black background, Diane had written, non-essential, nothing else. When the Zoom debrief started, she shared her screen. Walked the team through the slides, calm, steady, efficient. No dramatics, no lingering pauses, just the cold wind of truth blowing through the virtual boardroom. Then slide 12 hit. There was a moment, a click in the collective gut. Julia let out an awkward cough. Tasha smiled into her coffee. Brian was long gone, but his ghost lingered like burnt popcorn. Colin didn't speak, not during that slide, not after, just a tight nod. Diane didn't wait for applause. She ended the screen share, thanked them for their time, and logged out before anyone could fake closure. 10 minutes later, the invoice was marked paid. Stripe pinged. Claire texted a confetti emoji. Diane poured herself a bourbon and walked to the printer. She printed the slide, high gloss, thick stock, framed it in a gold beveled frame from the antique shop on Maple Street. She hung it above her desk, right where she could see it during every client call, every strategy session, every time she needed to remember. They tried to write her out. Now they couldn't write a process without her. The frame's engraving read just one word, redundant. There's a difference between being loud and being unignorable. Diane's story is proof that the most brutal career comebacks don't involve shouting. They involve silence, leverage, and a 6-figure invoice. Let this be a lesson. Never call someone non-essential if you don't know what they actually do. Thanks for watching, you cubicle warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. Revenge of the coffee pot strikes again.